Hi, Abby. I wanted to leave you some feedback on your rough draft. I think that you're doing some good work here talking about the use of text, talking about the use of color, and I really like that you are trying to talk about gender in this ad. That is definitely where I would focus my analysis. And in fact, I you have this list, right, of items, of visual elements, I should say. Um, uh, and I think that you could talk about those, but I would almost argue that um, it's it's worth primarily focusing on the article, or sorry, the image's use of image, or sorry, I'm sorry, the image's use of gender is what I meant to say. Um, I would, as a woman, I find this image a little insulting. That does not mean that I think that you chose a bad image. In fact, I am really happy that you chose this image. I think that this is definitely something worth exploring. Um, but I wonder that if you can take this a step deeper. So I really like that you say that the woman is the focal point of the image. She absolutely is, and the you can see that the artist does that in one of two ways. As you mentioned, it's the color of her bathing suit, but it's also how she's positioned in the image. Um, I wonder, however, what the image seems to suggest about women, meaning that it seems to suggest that women really only have one purpose, and that is to please men. And the only way that a woman can please a man is through what the ad suggests. So it seems to sexualize women in a way that seems to be for the man's benefit. Another interesting thing about gender is the choice in the doctor, right? Note that the doctor is male. Also note that he is older. So I think that there's something that you can do there. Also note that he looks directly at the viewer while the woman does not look directly at the viewer. Something else has her eye over here. So that could be something that you could write about. So does he appear like an authority versus the woman? Why was a male chosen as a doctor versus a woman? Um, but something else that you could potentially talk about too is that it's kind of interesting that even though we see these kind of gender differences, she is placed a little bit higher than the doctor. So that might be worth something exploring as well. Um, I would like you to give this a read for awkward sentences. Um, so here's an example before advertisements can be out. I'm not quite sure what you're saying there. And so there's just a couple places here and there. Here's another example that is worth you going back and editing for clarity. I think another thing to talk about here too is this ad appears to be pretty old, meaning that if I don't know the specific date, but based on the style of the ad, the way that the woman's hair is done, and the way that she's dressed, I would argue that this image was probably created in the 1950s or 60s. Um, and so perhaps one of the questions to ask is would 20th century audiences be uncomfortable with this image? Perhaps how have our ideas about gender and gender norms changed? And then perhaps something else, would this image work today? So, you know, as I said, I kind of find, as a woman, I kind of find this image a little insulting. um, so maybe something to ask is, am I in the minority or am I in the majority? And, you know, so it might be even interesting to look at some more contemporary images of Yasmin and think about how they've changed or if they have I'm willing to bet that they have probably made some adjustments. So really, I think that this says a lot about gender, and how much our ideas of gender have changed. Um, so yeah, I think that there's a lot for you to work with here. That is the primary place where I would expand. So thinking about what gender roles are suggested in the image and how the image is perhaps relying on some stereotypical gender roles in order to sell this product. And I'd like to hear your reaction to that. Do you think those stereotypes are fair? Uh, are they valid? Um, what might a 21st century person have to say in regard to this ad today? All right. Well, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.